All right. This is hold on, I didn't even check before. It's the 60th episode of the Running My Mouth podcast. I am your very excited, very cautiously optimistic host, Erin. And allow me to run my mouth for a little bit. We will get into my excitement and my cautious optimism a little bit later. But we have passed Thanksgiving, and I put it on my list of topics. I don't know why I did, though. There wasn't really much to talk about there. Thanksgiving happened, it was nice, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I hope everyone else had, at the very least, an uneventful Thanksgiving. Mine was uneventful, thankfully. That's all we can hope for sometimes. But I will say I had a pretty decent Thanksgiving. I didn't cook anything this year, so I really got to step my game up next year. I gotta get in the kitchen, guys. I gotta step up my kitchen game. I mean, I was originally planning to make something, but then our Thanksgiving location changed, so I wasn't really able to do it. But either way, I think I had a pretty good Thanksgiving. The drive, however, I'm not even gonna lie. You guys already know if you've been watching the pod for really any amount of time, because I feel like I complain about it a lot. I hate driving. And the drive from Jackson to Mobile, Alabama, kind of sucks. I'm not even gonna lie. It's just a lot of 2-lane roads, a lot of small highways, and it's just, I don't know, man. If you like driving, you might like it. I don't like driving though, so I didn't like it. And I wasn't really expecting to like it either, so, I mean, it met my expectations, which is that I wouldn't like it, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, really. It just is what it is. But anywho, after Thanksgiving, there was at least one show. Yes, there was one show that I went to yesterday, and I'm actually recording this on Saturday the 6th because there's a show tomorrow evening that I would like to be in attendance for. But I went to, why did my phone vibrate? Okay, what does it say? Wait, hold on, what does this say? I actually might need to look at this. Wait, hold on, what does this say? What? Oh, man. That's so crazy. Okay, hold on. I have to pause. Anyway, but that was mildly disappointing, the news that I just received, but we move. Anywho, I went to see a show yesterday at Urban Foxes. I don't know why I just blanked on the name real quick, but Lacey of Clitter Critters and Kicking fame was back in town to perform with, get this, both Clitter Critters and Kicking, as well as Weak Hearts and New Kid on the Block, sort of. I mean, so like 4 of the 5, wait, hold on, how many? 1, 2, 3, 3 of the 4 have been, performing for a while. One of them is a newcomer, but New Kid on the Block, Dreams Without Color. And I will say, I don't know what it was about yesterday, but I found it to be a particularly enjoyable show. Like, I have fun at pretty much every show that I go to, right? There has not been an instance where I've gone to a show and I've not had fun. But something about yesterday's show, it was a 10 out of 10 show. I gotta say, I just felt like it was great. So I was a silly Billy, and I unfortunately got there a little bit late. The show started at 7, and I got there at like 7:30. Well, okay, the flyer time was 7. So I was like, oh, that's the door time. No, 'twas not the door time. It was the show time. And they started at 7:15. So I got there like 15 minutes late. I wasn't very happy about that because Dreams Without Color went on first. And if you don't know, they are comprised of Ansley of Measureless Aeons fame, as well as Jack, also of Measureless Aeons fame, and Adam Rogan of Chief City. Chief City. Chief City in Vicksburg, and then there's Cheap City, a band that came from out of town a while ago that I legit can't remember where they're from. But Chief City from Vicksburg, and Death Throws from a Star, also from Vicksburg, and then Daisy on synth, who first time performing, did a phenomenal job, in my opinion. Also, I felt like the mix was really good. Like, I felt like I could hear like everything really clearly, and I like that I could actually be able to hear the synth. That was nice. So, this was their first performance as Dreams Without Color, and they are a sort of, I guess I can see, I can look it up. Let me see to see what they're actually listed as, if it's on their Instagram. Let me see. Dreams Without Color. Ethereal post-punk. Okay. That is what they describe themselves as. And I would say it's kind of, I don't know, it felt kind of like old school gothy, if that makes sense. Hopefully to somebody. But from what I was able to catch, which was I think their last like 3 songs, they sounded really good, honestly pretty polished for, a new project. And it was great. I loved it. And they're going to be performing again. If you missed them this time around, which, will be tied thee that miss Dreams Without Color's first performance. But they will be back at Urban Foxes on the 13th with the Akashic 45s and Achilles. So if you missed them once, you get to rectify your mistake. And you should rectify your mistake because they were great and I like them a lot. And then after Dreams Without Color was Clitter Critters, and of course, very close to my heart. I love Clitter Critters. I was playing their self-titled EP nonstop after it came out. Like it was really good. And of course, Lacey was back for that rather. And so that was really nice. In fact, the last time I saw them was earlier this year, at their farewell. Well, actually, is that true? Hold on, I don't think that's true. I think Lacey came back at some point in the middle of the year. Yeah, no, I'm lying. I'm telling fibs. Hold on. Not for Clitter Critters, but I think for Kicking at the very least. Hold on, what is this? That's 2024. This is 2025. Yeah, October 18th they had a show. Was I there for that? I don't know if I was. But also June 20th, they were here for a show. And also, I don't know if that June 1st one. No, okay, so the June 20th one, I was there for, and that did include Lacey. So my phone, okay, that's not urgent. Yeah. But their Farewell For Now show was that in December or was that in January? Nah, hold on. I think that December or January. When was that? Let me see. No. Was that in February? I know that. Okay, hold on. No, I took pictures at that show, so I feel like I should know when it was. So let me scroll. Come on, Instagram. Don't do this to me. Please load. Here we go. It's a little slow, but whatevs. Okay, this was January 4th. Okay, that was their Farewell For Now show that I was at. So it really hasn't been that long since Lacey's been back. She came back like sometime in the summer. So yeah, I don't know why I forgot about that. But of course, Clitter Critters did great. Love them. No notes. Kicking as well did great. No notes for them. But for this particular show, I don't even know what to say. Like, I regret to inform you all that I think I've been sleeping on Weak Hearts. Like, that's so crazy to say, because I've seen them more than one time before now, and I don't know why. I've just, like, memory hold all those performances, but, like, man, like, I think I've really been sleeping on Weak Hearts, and that's crazy to say. Unfortunately, it appears I have been sleeping on Weak Hearts. I didn't know they had it like that. I don't know what I was doing, just completely disassociating during their performances, but for this one, they just, I don't know. Am I a weak heart? Am I a weak heart head? Am I am I a weakling? I don't know. It was great. I loved their performance. They were actually missing their lead singer, but Zach filled in on vocals. and it was still great. And I was like, man, where have I been all this time? And they actually put out, I want to say like 2 new singles lately, something like that. And I think they might have an album out. Weak Hearts. Now get away from me. Dismiss. Yeah, they put out 2 singles this year. One called Coward and one called Catfight. And they also put out an EP in 2023. So they've been around for a good little time. But man, I've really been sleeping on Weak Hearts. That's so crazy. I do apologize for sleeping on y'all. But man, I didn't know they were shredding like that. Like, wow. That's great. Unfortunately, I do not know of a upcoming Weak Hearts performance as of right now. So if you missed that one, I don't know what to tell you. But they do perform pretty frequently, I would say. Well, not really pretty frequently, but a decent amount of times. So, chances are you will be able to catch them pretty soon if you also have been sleeping on them like I have. But of course, it's December. The shows are winding down, so you might have to wait till January or February for that to happen. But either way, man, I can't believe I was sleeping on Weak Hearts. That's so crazy. You know what's also crazy? I don't know if I have to, explain this. Because I don't know if... I feel like people should know. But I remember I posted a short on the YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you're listening on the audio-only version of the podcast, maybe not for this one. You might not be really getting half the story for this one. But in other instances, you would be getting half the story. The video version is available on the YouTubes, where I also post clips as shorts. But I posted a clip talking about Measureless Aeons, how they've progressed after a year. And I got a comment on there being like, oh, nice paid advertisement. And it's like, no, that's not the case. People do not pay me to talk about their bands. I don't know. I don't really think that needs to be said, but just in case it did, they don't. And also, I don't even know if that would be something I want to do. Because, if you're going to pay me, right, hypothetically, to talk about your band, and I don't like the band, I'm not a very good liar. I don't think I'm a very good liar. I don't think I would be able to lie and be like, wow, guys, this music is so great when I don't really mean it, So, anywho, the manner in which I talk about bands is genuine. It comes from the heart. And, music in general. It comes from the heart. I'm not about to sit here and lie. I don't know why that came up, but that was just a thought I had recently. So yeah, that was yesterday's show at Urban Foxes. It was honestly really well attended as well. I thought that was nice to see. So yeah, what else am I looking for? Well, I guess that's the only show that I've been to recently. Very quick review of that. So let's go ahead and talk about some upcoming shows. There aren't a whole lot. Like I said, it's December. It's about to be January. But it is Diciembre in Spanish. So tomorrow, which, if you're watching this on the 10th when this comes out, this has already happened, so oopsie. I guess I will know, certainly, on the 10th when this comes out, when you're seeing it. But you'll also let me know, maybe, if this show was a rip-roaring good time. But we have Die Young from Texas, which I don't really know much about this band, but that's it. That's it. I don't know much about this band. That's all I can say. And then Shangri-La, a Mississippi band. They're not from Jackson. I forgot where they're from. And then Face Rot, who is, of course, from Jackson. They will be at CS's tomorrow, a Sunday, at 6 p.m. And that, of course, first of all, only 3 bands on the bill. Hallelujah. Goodness gracious. And 3, well, Shangri-La's not a hardcore band, but 2 hardcore bands and 1 kind of heavy band. I will be at home in my jammies probably before 10 o'clock. That's where I'm placing my bets. Whether or not that will actually happen remains to be seen. But either way, yeah. that should be fun. And then, like I said earlier, next Saturday, the 13th, we will have the Akashic 45's Dreams Without Color and Achilles at Urban Foxes at 6 o'clock. And then, that next Sunday, the 14th, we will have Full Nelson, Broken Demeanor, Face Off, Shangri-La, and Face Rot at the Patton House. We have another show at the Patton House, so I guess, what's that man's name? Greg? Or something? Gary? Gary or Greg? I guess he was satisfied with us the first time around and is letting us have another show at the Patton House. So that's exciting. However, this time around, I do hope they roll up that rug. Please roll up the rug. I'm begging y'all, roll up that rug. I'll help you roll up the rug. It can't be that hard to roll up a rug, but we need to get that rug out of the way because that's a slip and fall risk, like real talk. Next we have, and I actually do have more information for this. It's really funny because the last podcast episode, I was like, oh, I don't have the full lineup for this yet. And then I end the podcast, I stop recording and I go on Instagram and it's like, oh, here's the whole thing. Mostly satire. This is a reel, so it's gonna start playing. Okay, actually I don't even have to look at that. So, Mostly Satire's release show for their album Piggy Bank, which is on the 19th. That is with Holy Vision, Surf Wax, and Headcanon at the End of All Music at 7 o'clock. Does it say 7 o'clock? Hold on. Let me see. I gotta play the little video, which is a nice little video. I don't know who made it, but it's really cute. September 19th, 7 o'clock, $10. 10 smackaroonies for that. Wait, hold on. Am I missing a band? Oh, I gotta watch it again. I thought I saw an additional name pop up. Holy Vision, Surf Wax, Headcanon, and no, that's it. And of course, Mostly Satire. So that'll be fun. You know, Mostly Satire has been around for quite some time, and they've had like a couple of singles out, but now they're releasing an album. I think that's great. And then, this is in January, but I'll talk about it anyways. We have the Gates, well, no, it's just Gates of Brutality. It's not the Gates of Brutality, but Gates of Brutality. It is I think primarily death metal festival at Hal & Mal's. I don't know how much tickets are. I can look that up, I suppose. Gates of Brutality, Hal & Mal's. That should get that. Let me see. Hallery and Mallory's. Where's it at? Here we go. Tickets and info. Let me see. It is $20 in advance. I don't know how much it'll be at the door. I don't have my ticket yet. But also, this looks like a long event. I do want to go. I want to go. Whether or not I will, it starts at 2 o'clock. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 bands for $20. Let's do the calculations. 20 divided by 14. That's $1.43 per band. That's a pretty good deal, in my opinion. You know, it could be a lot more expensive, but it's not. So, and this isn't even $20. It's $19.11 in advance. And this is on Saturday, January 17th at Hal & Mal's. Isn't that great? A nice little death metal music festival right here in Jackson. Like, that's nice. And that is all I have on my calendar. Like I said, I feel like I say this every episode, so it's like, we get it. But I have been pretty diligent in updating my calendar, so I mean, it is possible that something has slipped past the cracks on me. But either way, that's what we have coming up. And my music-related topics are a little limited. I feel like there is another thing that I wanted to talk about. Well, you know, I did see recently, because, you know, I like to plan my trips for the year in advance, but for what I'm about to talk about, there probably won't be any trips next year because I gotta save my coins. But I saw, and I'm very sad about this because I can't go, but Idola one of my what has become one of my favorite bands is doing a 2-night tour in Chicago, which is of course one of my favorite cities that I like to be at, in May, April, sometime next year. And I was trying to run the numbers, and it's just, I usually fly Southwest, but Southwest has gone and pissed me off because not only did they get rid of their lowest tier, but they also got rid of the only thing that made them worth, well, okay, that's not the only thing. The price, I think, is the main thing, but one of the main things that made them sort of worth flying, and it's that, there's assigned seating now. And the crazy thing about it is that with their new lowest tier, you can't even pick your seat. They're just gonna assign one to you. So you can't even just wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 24 hours before, your flight, and make sure to check in early so that you're in the A group. Now, first of all, they're gonna put you in the back. They're gonna put you in the freaking C group. So you're gonna be boarding last now. So you can't even try to game the system and wait 5 minutes beforehand on the app to check in really early, and hope to get in at least the B group. Now you're going to be, loading in last, and you won't even be able to pick your seat. And the thing about me is that I do kind of get motion sick on planes. Not to the point where I'm yakking, but it can happen. And I really need to be able to see the plane moving so that I can tell my brain, hey, the plane is moving. Don't get motion sick. Don't throw up in this pressurized tube with all these people. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to get my window seat. I might have to sit in the middle or in the aisle. And what if the person sitting in the window closes the window? Then I'm just going to, it's not going to be great. And, obviously, it's a plane. It's just supposed to get you from point A to point B. And, the actual flying time from, I don't think there's really any direct flight. Not with Southwest anyways. I don't know about the other airlines. Actually, I do know with the other airlines. The other airlines are still going to have to do a layover. So there are no direct flights from Jackson to Chicago, which is crazy in my opinion, but whatever. So, from Jackson to wherever the layover location is, and from there to Chicago, it's not that long, but still, I want to have a pleasant traveling experience. So it's I don't know, man. And even if I was to get the cheapo option and get assigned, I don't even really care about being in the back of the plane. I'm gonna be so serious. I don't really care about being in the back of the plane. I care about sitting by the window because I want to look outside and look at the clouds and be enchanted by the beauty of the earth. God forbid I do that, and I can't even do that now. And even if I do get, the aisle seat and in the very back of the plane, loading, being the last person to board, it's still going to cost me quite a bit. And you know what? I kind of don't have it, So it's yeah. I won't be able to go, and it's making me kind of sad. But you know what? It's whatever. It's whatever, man. And it was on a Saturday. I would only have to take off one day of work to, fly out on a Friday and be there on Saturday and then fly back on Sunday. And yeah, can't win them all. You can't win them all. You really can't win them all. But you know what you can win? This isn't a giveaway or anything, but you can feel like a these segues, man. You can feel like a winner when you're wearing your eargasm earplugs. Use code JX10 to get 10% off on a pair of eargasm earplugs using my code JX10. Feel like a winner without damage to your ears, but a winner that has preserved the quality of sound with these. You won't be able to survive a kicking show without one of these, because let me tell you, they're loud. But I was surviving because I had these. Yeah, that's the ad. That's the ad, people. Use code JX10 to get 10% off on eargasm.com. Anywho, that's that. So, as I have alluded to, wow, we're only at 25 minutes. That was a breeze. As I have alluded to earlier in the episode, but I've had my heart ripped out of my chest. um, so let me just tell the story. After Thanksgiving, there was an, I guess, reception for my cousin who recently eloped here in Jackson. And thankfully, everyone in the family was able to come, including my dad. And so after that, my dad came to my apartment for the first time. Yeah, he's not been here before. And, he's looking around, looking in my cabinets and my fridge, which I don't know if that's just like a parent thing, but like, get out of my refrigerator, you know? Um, and, he asked me, like, oh, how much you paying in rent? And I told him I pay $1,000 in rent because it's true. I pay $1,000 for my 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath apartment here. And he was like, oh, you pay too much rent. You pay too much money in rent. And it's like, yes, I agree. I do pay too much money, in my opinion. For this apartment, like, listen, I like my apartment. I do. It's the perfect size. It's in a great location. My commute to work is very short, but $1,000 is too much for this place. Like, straight up. Like, this unit is not worth $1,000 in my opinion. Honestly, I think pretty much all rental prices are like grossly overinflated, like so overinflated. And there is a chance that it's gonna go up next year. When I was looking at this place, that was what my landlady told me, which is of course unfortunate, but that's what landlords do. They price gouge. That's kind of the name of the game. And so he was like, you pay too much in rent. Let me buy you a house. And I was like, you're not going to buy me a house. Like, come on, let's be real. You're not going to buy me a house. But he was like, if I can find a house that I like, and I ran the numbers and I, found out based on how much I'm paying now and how much I ideally would like to pay going forward, how much house I could afford, which came out to be $150,000. And so, he was like, okay, if you find a house that you like and it's, reasonably priced, like, I'll buy it. And I was like, we'll see. We certainly shall see. And so, I have been looking at places around here. And honestly, okay, when I moved here, I was like, I'm not moving anywhere else for a long time. A good long while. Because first of all, moving is just so much work. It's a lot. Moving in the summer, crazy. Hate that. Too hot. Just a whole ordeal. And, I don't really feel like I have that much stuff, but, the longer I live in places, the more stuff I acquire. So it's like, perhaps I do have too much stuff. Well, I wouldn't say too much. I feel like I have an adequate amount of stuff for the space that I'm living in my opinion. I don't think, like, my house isn't just like overcrowded or whatever. It's fine. Anywho, moving sucks. All that to say. And also, I just, faced with the possibility that I might legitimately be priced out of this place next year. It's like, the rent prices just keep going up. The rent prices just keep going up. And there's like no sign that they're going to go down anytime soon. And the thing about it for me is that, number one, I sort of wasn't planning on living in Jackson long term. Like, next July will be 5 years that I've lived here, which is kind of crazy because I was like, I'm giving Jackson like 2 good years and then we're moving on. But here I am, 5 years later, still here, making no plans to move anywhere else. So it's like, okay, fine, why not? Honestly, why not? I'm in a do it and see what happens phase of my life. So it's like, what? Sure, why not? Why not? Because I was never really planning on, number one, buying a house here, but also just buying a house, period. Because I would say a decent amount in savings, more than the average adult does, apparently, as I've come to learn, which is crazy to say because it's not even that much. It really isn't that much. Um, and so it's like, the upfront costs of a house is a lot. I probably would be able, with what I'm paying now, I definitely would be able to afford the monthly payment on a house, a mortgage. But the upfront cost is crazy because, on average, you're putting down what, 20%? And 20% of even 100,000 is still 20,000. And it's like, I don't got $20,000 lying around. I have some savings, but I certainly don't have $20,000. And I'm looking at, houses that are up to $150,000. So, do the mathematics and see how much 20% of that is. And so, I, learned about FHA loans and how that would put me at 3.5%. And so, 150,000, 3.5%, that's only like 5 grand, which is still a lot, but it's not completely unattainable for me. If I was really Penny McPincher, I could probably manage that in like a couple years if I really wanted to buy a house here, which again, up until like now, it was not something I was even considering. So it's like that wasn't even really on my radar. But it's like now it's like, yeah. Cause, you know, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but my dad has worked a job now for, gosh, since what, 2008? That has, made a lot of money for our family. But it sort of came at the drawback of him just straight up not being at home for long stretches of time. So it's like, there's that. So it's like, my dad has kind of acquired this capital, but like at what cost? That cost being that, he's been out of the home for, like I said, long stretches of time. But on the flip side, he's gonna buy me a house. So it's like, maybe it was fine. Maybe it was fine. And it's like, gosh, I never even thought that this would be a possibility for me. I mean, it's not like I ever asked, like, hey, parents, would you help me buy a house? Like, that was never even like in my mind. Like, that wasn't really something I expected of them. But I don't know, my dad's offering, so it's like, whatever, man. I will use daddy's money to buy a house and put it in my name. Why not? Why not? Because, like I said, at this rate, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not exactly looking, but I don't know. I'm kind of comfortable here in Jackson. It ain't that bad. The boroughs, those living in, the outskirts of town. Those folks in Pearl and Brandon and Madison and Clinton and Ridgeland and Richland. They're like, oh, Jackson is so bad. Jackson is the worst. Why would anybody want to live in Jackson? Well, I've come to learn that it is pretty affordable to live in Jackson as a homeowner, not as a renter, not as a renter, but as a homeowner. I'm running the numbers, I'm doing the calculations, and it's like, yeah, like I could afford this. I could afford the monthly payments. Based on my income now and what I'm already paying, like, yeah, I could afford the monthly payments. The upfront cost, no. That is where my dad comes in. So, I don't know how long it's going to take to find a house. Now, the disappointing news that I got earlier was that I had already been on Zillow.com doing what I do on Zillow.com, looking at houses and putting them in my saved homes. And I had one in there that was like a little bit out of budget, but I feel like, with a house you can negotiate. Like I am pretty much planning on respectfully lowballing like every realtor I come across. Like, you're gonna knock off some money. Like, I'm gonna find a way to not pay the list price for this house. I don't know how I'm gonna do it because like I don't know if I'm really that good of a negotiator, to be completely honest, but I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find out. You know what? That was gibberish. You know what? I am low-key kind of good at games like Town of Salem. Not really Among Us, because I feel like at the time that I was playing Among Us, it was a lot of legit like elementary schoolers, and here I am, an adult, trying to use subterfuge on babies, and that's just not going to work. I feel like the player base of Town of Salem at the very least skewed a little bit older, Maybe it doesn't anymore, but when I was playing it, it was. And I was low key kind of good at that. So, like, if I can convince people playing Town of Salem that I'm not the serial killer, then maybe I can get a couple thousand, 10, 20,000 knocked off of a house price. I don't know. We'll see. We certainly shall see. However, like I said, I've been going saving houses, looking at the new ones as they pop up. And I had this one saved. It was a little bit out of my budget, but it was in an area that I liked, and I felt like again I could get some money knocked off of it, especially if some things were wrong with it. And lo and behold, I hadn't really even been sending my dad any of these cuz well, I don't know why. I just hadn't really been sending him any. But he sends me earlier today one of the houses that I had saved, and I was like, "Oh, cool, we're sort of on the same page." Fun. And he was like, "Yeah, schedule a viewing for it." And I was like, "Fine. I don't know how long this is going to take, but sure, I'll schedule a viewing." And literally, like maybe 2, 3 hours ago, I go on Zillow and I'm like, "Hey, I want to look at this house at this, or this time." And I get a response back like so quickly, like 10 minutes later, um, confirming a time for Monday. And I was like, "Slay, I'm gonna go look at a house on Monday. Like, this is getting real. Like, ooh, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see what's gonna happen." And so, I call my dad and ask him, like, what are the kind of things they're gonna ask? Like, what are the next steps if I'm just like so spellbound by this house? Come to find out, I guess it's the realtor that I was talking to. I think I don't even really know. Okay, I wasn't getting scammed. Like, it was the real person that I was talking to, but it was. Let me see. I got a text literally as I started recording, as you saw at the beginning of, the episode. But apparently the house is already under contract from the listing agent. Now, what's the difference between a listing agent and a realtor? I don't really know. But either way, they need to take the house off of friggin' Zillow so that other people can't get their hopes up. But I was looking at it, and I kind of do get attached to things like kind of quickly. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I feel like I should be used to it as someone who went through a whole saga trying to look for an apartment. Not when I was looking for this one, because I feel like I kind of learned my lesson. But now, buying a house, you have a little bit more time because it's going to take time. So I feel like you have more time to do something like that. But before I moved into my last place, I felt like I just, was looking a little bit too early, and I saw some stuff pop up that I really liked, but they, weren't going to sign a lease to me because I was still like 2 or 3 months out from my other lease ending. And so, I kind of got cut up that way, which was unfortunate. I mean, it ended up working out in the grand scheme of things. So it was like, fine, I guess. But yeah, the text that I got earlier in the pod, it was like, "Hey, actually this house is already, what was it? Not already been listed, already under contract." So I guess somebody scooped it up before I did. So much for that, I guess. But also, I still have other houses saved. Like, I have quite a few saved that I could probably look at. Yeah. It just switched to pending. That's crazy. Well, the sale is pending. It hasn't been sold yet. However, I don't know what under contract means. I have to figure out this stuff. Now that I'm about to try to become a homeowner, I gotta figure this stuff out. So technically, maybe whoever is trying to buy this is still working out the kinks. And maybe the kinks won't work out for them. So I might still have a chance at this house. However, this house wasn't even really like first choice for me. There was another house that I liked. There's this really nice mid-century house that I found that, it's a little big. Like, I'm not trying to get into like a huge house. This house isn't huge. It doesn't look huge to me, but it is a little on the bigger side, and it is like kind of over budget. Kind of very over budget. I'm not even gonna lie. So, and then there was another one that was a little smaller, that was, a lot under budget, that was a little bit more doable. And, I have quite a few houses saved. Like, Just putting that out there. So it's like I have options, but it's just, I kind of sort of already envision my entire life in this house, which is unfortunate. I mean, I have other ones, like I said, I have other ones saved that are like nice. So it's like, it's not the end of the world, but that's kind of lame. I thought I was pretty close. I was not. I was not close at all. In fact, very far. I wasn't even on the street. I wasn't even in the same state. So, that happens. Just so crazy. Anyways, whatever, man. It is what it is. But, I mean, like I said, I still have options. Ooh. So that's fun. I guess now what I have to do is look through these ones that I have saved and do some asking. Do some, do some reaching out. Maybe not now because it's like 8 o'clock at night. But I don't know. That realtor got back to me really, really fast. And it was like 6 o'clock. So I don't know. These realtors, they're hungry for that commission, I guess. So yeah, I'd still have some steps to go. One of those steps, namely being finding a house to actually tour. But yeah, I am, I have a list of requirements. Actually, I will tell you those requirements, because why not? This is exciting to me. This is legitimately really exciting to me. I am kind of excited about this. If we can actually make this happen, there is a chance that I could become a homeowner before I'm 27 years old. Which is kind of crazy that I'm turning 27 next year, but I'm not gonna think about it. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm not gonna think about aging. No. Anywho, so my requirements for a house are, first of all, well, we've already discussed my budget. No street parking. I'm not parking on the street. I feel like I'm too grown to be parking on the street. What does that mean? I don't know. I feel like I should at least have a driveway. If not a carport, not even a garage, just give me a driveway. Why are we parking on the street in the big 2-5? We don't live in a big, dense city. I should have a driveway, Not even a long one. Just one to fit my 4-door sedan. Just one. Because there's nobody living with me. Minimum 2-bed, 1-bath, or 1 bed plus an office and 1 bath. Because listen, I've been living the office life for a while now, and it's pretty great. I love having this separate space that is just office, and then I have living, and then I have bedroom, and then that's all separate. I do like that. Maybe I'm a little bit spoiled. I don't know. But I feel like, considering I'm going into potential homeowner and not potential renter, I can be a little bit picky. I think buying a house is a time where you're allowed to be picky. So yeah. Bathtubs. I want a bathtub. So far, all of the houses that I've looked at have had bathtubs. And if not bathtubs, then a shower stall and a bathtub. So it's that's not that lofty of a requirement. Most of them are going to have a bathtub. But I want a bathtub. Do I want a soaking tub? I don't know. We can litigate that later, a little bit down the road. Hardwood floors, or tile, or low pile carpet, or the nice fake wood planks. Because the amount of obvious quick flip jobs that I have seen on Zillow.com is crazy. And I know they're quick flip jobs because the inside is always painted gray or white, and the floors are always that just awful. I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate it. It's my arch nemesis. The gray fake wood laminate that's on a roll. You roll it out, and then they cut it, and then they glue it to the ground and probably cover up some really gorgeous hardwood floors. I hate it. I will not be entertaining. Well, okay. That's highly dependent on the rest of the house. No, I just said I'm allowed to be picky. I'm allowed to not want those floors. Now, if I buy the house, could I rip those floors up? Yes, but going down the list, I'm not making any major repairs or any major changes because I'm not Bob the Builder. I can't do that. Could I pay someone to do it? Probably, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that. You're not going to find a house that's going to be 100% perfect in every way, obviously. And I'm willing to make some concessions in some areas, but like, I'm not trying to do all that. Especially considering, this is my first house that I'm going to purchase, I guess. But this also isn't going to be my forever home. Like, there's that as well. Like, this isn't going to be my forever home. Mississippi isn't going to be my forever home. Obviously, I can say that, and then things could happen, but I'm not planning on this house that I purchased, at the very least, the house. I don't know about Mississippi as a whole, but the house to not be my forever home. So it's like, I'm okay with it not being like perfect, you know? So, yeah, moving on. I want a sizable kitchen. I like the size of the kitchen I have now, but again, if I'm buying a house, this house is in my name, I'm doing a 30-year or however long mortgage on this house, I want a good sized kitchen. I should be able to have that, in my opinion. I should be able to have a nice sized kitchen, okay? And either an already existing dishwasher or at least a place for a dishwasher. And again, since I am buying this house and I can make whatever changes I want, I probably could get like a dishwasher like installed, but I'm not trying to do all that, and I want pantry space. I don't really have pantry space in this apartment. I have quite a lot of cabinet space, but I want like one of the big pantries, with the door on it, not like a cabinet, and I have found quite a few homes that have that feature. So we're making good time. What else? Central AC. Oh my god, I'm not living down here in a home with freaking window units. No thank you. No thank you. No thank you. That's not happening. I need central AC. And I'm not putting, ceiling fans as a requirement, because again, I could just install some ceiling fans. Like, we can make that happen. What else? Storage, proper storage. I need a good amount of storage. I don't have a lot of stuff, like I said, but there may come a time where I acquire stuff, and I want that stuff to be able to be put somewhere, And I have seen a lot of these places with either carports or garages, and the carports or garages will have like little storage areas. It's cute. I like that. No major repairs and no fixer-uppers. I'm not trying to, rock up to this house every weekend in overalls with a bucket of, with a bucket of paint and a tool belt on, trying to fix this house so that it's in a livable condition. That's not what I'm trying to get into. I don't think that would ever be what I was trying to get into. Like, I don't think anybody could convince me to buy a fixer-upper. I lived in a fixer-upper growing up. I saw just the everything that came with that. Not I set the fly. Not happening. One story. I don't think I need anything more than a 2-story or anything more than a 1-story house. I mean, I have seen some like townhouses and condo type beats, but I don't know if I would consider a townhouse anymore. I thought about it. I had some townhouses saved and I was like, I don't know. I'm paying all this money. I don't want to share a wall. I don't know if I want to share a wall. In a rental situation, sure. But a house that I'm purchasing? I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. And then, of course, the list of neighborhoods that I'm willing to live in. And then I want something that's ideally all electric. I don't want to have to pay a gas bill. I had a gas bill in my last apartment. For my teeny tiny apartment, in the winter, because I had a gas furnace, it could get kind of high, close to $200 high. And I was like, for this, well, first of all, clearly my last apartment had some insulation issues, because it was constantly so cold in the winter. And, I think that house had insulation issues. But, I don't want gas. But also, a house can have a gas line going to it and just no gas appliances. If there is a gas stove, I can just replace that with electric. If there's a gas furnace, I can replace that with electric. If there's a gas water heater, I can replace that with electric. So it's yeah, I want all electric for my home. I am willing to give up the allure of the gas stove because I really like cooking on a gas stove. I kind of prefer it for electric just so that I won't have to pay the bill. I'm thinking like an adult. Sometimes you gotta make concessions. Sometimes you can't have everything you want. And honestly, I don't really want a gas stove all that much anymore, to be completely honest. And then I have some nice to haves. A walk in closet. I don't really have a lot of clothes, but I would like a walk in closet because I think it would be nice to have. A screened in porch or a sunroom. A lot of the places that I have saved have screened in porches. And also the house that was ripped out of my hands so unceremoniously had a screened in porch as well. I want a screened in porch. I want a screened in porch. I just do. A yard. Which I mean, okay, I put that in there because I was, when I wrote this list, still considering condos and townhouses, but like all these houses have yards. Some of them are pretty big. And I've just resigned myself to the fact that I'm gonna have to pay somebody to cut my grass because I'm not doing it. I'm not cutting any grass. No, thank you. Also, something that I have considered, which I would have to look into, local ordinances for all of that, because I know some places are really lame about this kind of thing, but I think I would get rid of my yard if I got a house with a yard. Obviously I would have to have someone to assist me in that, but I would consider replacing my grass with like clover or, with local plants instead of just grasses. But if I live in a place with a HOA and, I have no HOAs in my nice to haves, but thinking realistically, especially in the neighborhoods that I have listed, chances are it's going to have HOA. And I don't know if it's going to be like a really annoying HOA or like an HOA where it's like, hey, give us however much a month and I don't know, we'll like maintain the sidewalks, that kind of thing. But I feel like I don't think most HOAs will like me having local plants or a clover yard, but I kind of don't care. I want to replace my yard with clover. I think it'd be nice. I don't have kids. I feel like the thing you hear about when people are like against people getting rid of their yards is like, where are the kids gonna play? Where are the kids going to play? And it's like, okay, when I was a kid, I was playing outside and like we did have a yard, but like we were honestly mostly playing in the driveway, which is concrete. And like we had a yard, but like I don't know, if we didn't, it probably wouldn't make a difference, to be completely honest. Like it would not make a difference if we didn't have a yard, And also, I don't have kids. There's not going to be any children in my home if I have anything to say about it. So it's like, I don't care. Who cares about some grass that's not serving anybody? I'd rather have, some nice soft clover that's not going to grow like 10 feet high than grass that's just going to die in the summer and look really bad. Like I said, nice. It would be nice to have no HOA, but again, thinking realistically, there's probably going to be an HOA. So yeah. And then fiber connection. I want to have fiber internet at my home. I haven't had fiber for a while, and I would like to live in a place that has fiber. Obviously I haven't been rocking with dial-up this whole time, but I don't want the 5G home internet. That's lame. That sucks. I don't have it now, thankfully, but I am sort of locked to Xfinity, which hasn't been great. I'd rather not have Xfinity anymore, if I'm being completely honest, but oop, those were push pins. Nothing fell. Yeah, and then, of course, questions I'll probably have to ask when I am touring a home. How old is the roof? How old is... Well, my mom told me not to worry about the water heater because they can be replaced, but I am kind of worried about the water heater because I can't even remember if I talked about this on the podcast, but earlier this year, like a couple months ago, I had my water heater break in my apartment and it was flooding my bathroom for like a couple days and I had to keep changing out the towels and there's probably some water damage. Like the closet as well that the water heater is in is like weird. There's some mold in there. So we had to get the water heater replaced. I didn't pay for it, thank God, but when I become a homeowner, I will have to pay for it. So I want to know, how old is this water heater? And also, could I get a tankless water heater? Maybe. I don't know. Call in, we're standing by. Do you have a tankless water heater? How is that? Anywho, how old is the AC unit? Just let me tell you, these Mississippi summers, no AC, they're gonna kill me. Probably literally, because it gets hot. And any major damage in the last 10 years, has there been a flood? Are we in a flood zone? Has this house caught on fire? What's the termite situation? We got little buggies living in here because they're not going to be able to pay rent, and therefore they got to go. That kind of thing. So, I feel like I have most of my bases covered when it comes to looking for a home. I just have to find a different one, I guess, now, because my other one has been, like I said, yanked from my grasp so rudely. Ugh, don't like that, but whatever. I guess someone else will be enjoying it. But whatever, like I said, I have other options, but I was low-key kind of excited. I was getting my hopes up, and I have learned why you don't get your hopes up, because then that can happen. And it's like, well, you can't do anything about it now, except hope that the sale falls through, which is still possible. The sale could fall through. The sale could fall through. I just am not able to look at it at this moment. But the sale could fall through, and I still have a while before, I need to make a decision, because I have been living in this apartment for 7 months now. I thought it was 6, but apparently I just forgot that I moved here in June and not July. But it's been 7 months, 7 pretty good months. But, like I said, there is a high probability that the rent will be going up next year, to a degree that I might not be able to afford, to be completely honest. So it's like, I gotta think about it, think about things, so yeah, that is where I'm at now. It's so crazy to think about. If someone had told me when I was in college that in 2025, I guess 2026, you'd be thinking about buying a house in Jackson, I'd probably look at them like they're crazy. But here we are. Things happen, things change, things evolve. Life is so funny in that way. So yeah, that's that on that. So this next one is very quick. There will be a new season of Drag Race soon. And when is it airing? Hold on. What season is this even? 18? Hold on. Drag Race season 18. Yes, this is 18. It is airing January 2026. But what day? I sure would love to know. Well, anyways, there is a new season. I, for whatever reason, just was not able to get into the last main season of Drag Race. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because there were just so many queens. I just couldn't get into it. Now, the last season of All Stars, I greatly enjoyed that. That was great. But the last main season, I was just like not into it for whatever reason. So hopefully I can get into it this season. But last main season, I was just like, I don't know, I just fell off after a certain point. Like I don't know. I don't know how much they're gonna change up the format, but we certainly shall see next month. Whoa. Okay. So with all of that out of the way, there has been an update to a story that I'm not on the news. I don't have to talk like I'm on the news. Anyways, there's been an update to a story that has been somewhat, near to my heart. It had quite an impact on me as it has unfolded, and that is the case of Jaylee. If you didn't know, Jaylee was a student at Ole Miss who went missing, I want to say in 2021, or maybe 2021. I can't remember. Went missing quite some time ago, and a person by the name of Timothy Harrington Jr. was arrested for that. And that trial happened earlier this year. I can't remember what charges he was facing, but I think he was looking at getting life for, at the very least, murder. But the only thing about it is that during that trial, which ended in a mistrial, an 11-1 mistrial, and that one juror could not be convinced because Jaylee's body had not at that moment been found. And so, for the time being, of course, there's going to be another trial, but for the time being, Timothy Harrington was walking free. And then, like divine intervention somehow, a couple months later, or maybe it was like a month later, was that earlier this year? Or was that last year? I think that was last year. But earlier this year, in February, Jaylee's body was found in, I want to say, like, Collins, Mississippi, or something like that. And so, which is so crazy because if the trial had just taken place like a couple months later, Timothy Harrington would have been behind bars the first time, and so there was going to be a retrial. When was that scheduled? This last week. Yeah, there's going to be a retrial. And so he changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. He pled down to a lesser charge. Instead of capital murder, it was going to be second-degree murder. And so now he's facing, 40 years? 30 years for the second-degree murder, and I think 10 for, like, evidence tampering or something like that. And, normally I don't really talk about, like, true crime on this podcast because that's just not what I do. But given that this was just kind of so, I don't know, just, like, shocking and also local, that kind of drew me to it. And I think this kind of goes into a bigger conversation that I've seen people talking about it online, but they're not talking about it, in my opinion, in the correct way at all. But it's the whole rigmarole around DL men. And, when I say that, I feel like a lot of these conversations are mostly centered in the Black community. So there's this whole thing online, which is like so annoying to me because it just straight up doesn't make sense. First of all, it does not make sense. But basically it's like, if you have a boyfriend or a husband and he's like really mean to you, that means he's into men. Like that, the point A to point B, there's no connection there. Like being a misogynist does not automatically make you a man liker. You can be very into women sexually and maybe even romantically, and you can be like super misogynistic. I don't know where we lost the plot along the way from misogyny to this is just straight up homophobia now, in my opinion. And it's so crazy, you see the stories online, on the TikToks or on the Instagram reels, where it's like this lady is complaining about her boyfriend or her husband, how she's like, or he's like, just straight up mean to her. And everyone in the well, not everyone, but a lot of people in the comments are like, oh, your husband's being mean to you because he likes men. Like, how do we get to that conclusion? That's so crazy. Because something that has been proven time and time again is that if a man actually is closeted, not just like, people throwing it around for whatever reason to, I don't know, make themselves feel better about the situation. I don't know. But if a man is actually closeted and he is having dalliances with men who are gay or trans women, something that for whatever reason people say, and it's like you're almost there, but you lost the plot somewhere along the way, is that, these men who are so-called DL men, they can be dangerous, but not to their female partners, to the people that, they're having hidden liaisons with. Like, there have been so many, quote-unquote gay panic murders of gay men and trans women by the people that, they've been in romantic relationships with, who would rather commit murder than admit the fact that they like men or trans women. And it's like, it's so crazy. And sometimes these people have got off with these murders. Thankfully, in the case of, Timothy Harrington, he's actually seeing some time for this. But, it came out in the first trial that, him and Jaylee were in some kind of either romantic or sexual relationship. And, Timothy Harrington wasn't out. But Jaylee was out. Jaylee was out and proud, a very beloved member of the queer community up in Oxford. And, just beloved by pretty much everybody, hearing people talk about him in life, he was just a ray of sunshine. And, all because, and this has layers. It has layers. Like, being a murderer sort of kind of is more acceptable than being gay in the Black community to a lot of people. Not to me. Not to me. Don't get it twisted. But I feel like the Black community, especially in the South, is still very, very socially conservative in a way that I feel like is low-key kind of holding us back in a lot of ways. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about that you would rather be a murderer than be gay. Like, what? Like, that's so crazy to me. It just will never make sense to me. And it was it was a senseless crime. Like, that didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen. But all because Timothy Harrington was just a coward and would have rather committed a heinous crime and stolen a person away from everyone who loved them. That's just it. But like I said, it has layers to it. To a lot of people, being a murderer is more acceptable than just being gay. And it's wild, And kind of thinking back to my own childhood, it's really interesting in the Black community, at least where I grew up. I felt like there were far more like openly lesbian women and bisexual women than there were gay men. Like, growing up in school, I don't think I knew a single like boy that I went to school with who actually was like out and saying like, yes, I am gay. There were obviously like a lot of effeminate boys, I guess, that I went to high school with, but nobody ever came out and said it. Meanwhile, there was like this entire cadre of studs at my high school, and they're all on the basketball team and they're all really good at basketball. But, there's this like so many really butch gay girls at my high school, and of course, the more femme lesbian and bi girls. But there were no like out gay men, and it's so crazy because it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like the Black community as a whole has a lot of reckoning to do with the way that they view gender and sexuality, because, it's holding us back. I think it's holding us back. Like, there's really no reason for this, and it's just deeply sad and deeply upsetting. But at the very least, Jaylee was able to be found and put to rest, and Timothy Harrington was able to be put behind bars. But there's still the possibility that he could, get out when he's like 60, which, I don't know, man. Yeah. But I guess at least there's a conclusion to all of this. Not a happy conclusion by any means, but, I remember going into work on, I don't know what day it was, but, in 2021, I was at my last job, and every morning I would check the news because, at the time I didn't have a TV. I mean, I have a TV now, but I still don't watch the news on TV. But every morning I would get to work and I would check the news first thing, and I saw, the, I guess, like, announcement, or I don't know what you call it, like the missing persons story on Jaylee, and I was like, man, this is sad. And yeah, it was sad. It was, Jaylee's dad actually gave I don't know if it's like a victim impact statement, during the second trial or during the sentencing, because there was no trial because he pled guilty. And it's just heartbreaking, man. It didn't have to happen, but I don't know, man. Hate to end it on a downer. I really do, but oops. Sorry about that. Anywho, thankfully we have a bit of a shorter episode this week, this this fortnight. But yeah, this has been the 60th. I gotta stop clapping because I know it's peaking the mic. The 60th episode of the Running My Mouth podcast. I've been your host, Erin. Thank you for allowing me to run my mouth. Follow me on Instagram, because if you're not following me on Instagram, you're only getting half the story. Use my code, JX10 to get 10% off your order on eargasm.com. It's not too late to buy gifts for Christmas. You know, if you're a last minute purchaser, if you buy them now, they most likely will come by Christmas time. So keep that in mind. And also, something that I realized when I was looking at my calendar, the next episode of the pod is going to come out Christmas Eve. That's going to be so much fun. I don't think I got rid of it. I really don't think I got rid of it, but I'm going to have to find my Santa hat. And I don't know if it's going to be like a special Christmas episode, but I, at the very least, will be wearing my Santa hat the next time you see me. So yeah, that'll be fun. Anywho, I would like to go now. I need to figure out this house situation and find another house that I can obsess over, I guess. That's life, I guess.